Good evening. It's evening when I'm making this video. I don't know if it's evening where you are. I'm making this video to celebrate and to sort of explain what a factory looks like at the 212 hour mark because yeah, that's how many hours I have in this factory. Right now we're looking at all my various spaceships going up to the space station, shuttles queuing up to land on the shipping pads down on the ground. And of course I'm standing here in front of one of the statues. But we'll try not to waste too much time. I'm just going to move along here. You don't hear the sound of the jetpack because I've turned that sound off because it's just a continuous horrible sound of engines. But before we go through the whole distance here, show you a couple of things. One is I don't have any labels on it, and I'll show you why. If I should put on the waypoints on the HUD, this is what you see. And it also kills the frame rate. So I'm going to shut that off again, and I'll just sort of fly around showing you things. But first, let's go through a tunnel. I blew this out with explosives to go get water for various facilities, specifically for making concrete. But here I have a geothermal access. This is providing ignium powder, which is required for the boilers. The boilers require an ignium water where you mix ignium powder and water and you get this powder. And then you drop down this shaft. And here we are down at the lava caves. Here's the waterfall. Because I put a shaft, an elevator shaft here, and it ended up partially in the water. These are geothermal vents and geothermal boilers above it. The water is heated, turns into steam, and the steam goes back up. And of course that's the ignium infused water coming down. It's infused with ignium powder. So we'll shoot back up. And of course I'm going by the pumps here that are on the pipeline going up. I probably don't need them, but I was adding them in. I actually have a Steam guide that explains geothermal vents and how to put it together, and in the end how it's really not worth much trouble. But let's go on back, only this time instead of going through the tunnel we'll just fly right over. Now as I said, I'm at the 212 hour mark. I've completed all my research. This is all right now I'm looking at pump jack efficiency, and I've done it a bunch of time I'm on the 17th efficiency run for that. We'll just start at this end of the complex. This is where I'm making concrete, and to do that I'm bringing in mineral rock. I have mineral rock coming up from this shaft, which is probably empty right now, which is why I don't see any more. But I'm also bringing it in by shuttle from another location. And since I'm not using much concrete, it's probably going to last a while till my next shuttle comes in. And I also have an ability to fly in more concrete if I need it. That's what this arrangement is right here. I'll show you. I have a storage container. It contains 200. And I have a data control unit right here. I have a Steam guide on this too if you want to look at that. And once you get down below 300, it's going to open the gate here, and this concrete that I'm bringing down from the space station will fill up that storage until it reaches 1,000. When I get done with this video, I'll figure out why I'm not getting the mineral. I'm also bringing in mineral rock from the space station too, and that's what this ship is arrived. It's refilling this storage, and you notice I have another one of those data control systems here, and I'll show you real quick so we don't spend too much time on this stuff. But if you look at it, when it goes below 300, it opens that gate over there, and when it reaches 1,000, closes the gate. And that gate brings the supply down that I'm bringing down from the space station. When the amount goes down below halfway, it'll call up another ship from the space station. All right, but we spent enough time on that. That's concrete being made right there. And like I said, I don't have a huge need for concrete, so it's right now it's sufficient for what I need. And here's more. This is making glass, and again, it's not a big need, but that's that facility. I've got various. You can see that over here. I've got various shipping pads to bring down items from the space station. So if I start running low, they'll be here. Here I'm bringing down plates. It's hard to see because they're going by so fast. And again, I turn on the overlays because I have. If I look, for instance, I could look on the map and tell you right now what I'm looking at is a glass from station pad. So this is bringing down glass. But as long as I have enough in storage, it'll keep that gate closed. But that's how much I have in storage right now. So again, this is my my line of research stations. Right now it's researching pump jack efficiency, and it's being fed all the different science packs by different facilities. Oh, and I have another station, another robot statue here. To continue the tour so don't waste too much time here, I'm bringing in xenoferrite or rubble here from from vein mining at another location, and I'm bringing in the blue stuff, technum or rubble, from another station, and they're being flown in from these vein locations, and that's why the shuttles are sitting here, because it's taking a long time to load. And just like in some of the other spots, I have more of that rubble being flown in from the station, and I have a data control to keep this closed off, so it only opens if I run below a certain amount that's being brought from other places on the surface. So that's what that's for. That's why you see these data control lines. This is the old survey building, which I haven't used in probably 150 hours of gameplay. It's not needed anymore. These big facilities right here are making technum rods and plates, and they aren't doing very much now because as you can see, I've got a whole flow of rods and plates going out, but rods aren't needed that much, so the facility's probably oversized. And of course, if you can see over there on the wall, on the hillside, I'm flying in additional supplies from the space station should I need them. In fact, I'll do a real quick switch to the space station, and I'll go to the galactic market, and you can see how many things I'm buying right now. I'm buying a lot of stuff, and I'm flying them in. Look how many ships I've got doing it. I have about 300 ships right now. But if I look at my finances and look in the accounting history, my profit is 12 million a day. You never look on the today column because that's a partial number. But I'm spending 3 million a day on the market, but I'm earning 14 million on my supply routes and over $1.5 million on my sales platform. So I'm doing good. So let's go back to the surface and we'll continue running around here. These are large batteries and large solar panels, and some small batteries and small solar panels. I experimented with trying to become sort of eco-friendly by having enough solar panels and batteries to power everything, and I finally realized I could never get there. It was just too many panels and batteries that you would need. So this is just, I left it all together just as a supplement. We're starting to lose daylight here, so I'm going to go underground, and then we'll come back up and it'll be dark and you won't be able to see as much. So I'll do this side first before I go underground. This is, as I said, more resources I'm flying down from the space station. I don't sell anything up at the space station anymore. I used to, but I quit bothering with it because I'm taking so much money I don't need it. These are my old burner generators from that's when I provided power, and that was the ignium source they were mining, obviously long since emptied. This is my ignium delivery pad. This I have I'm doing ore mining for ignium as well, and this is where the ignium ore, it's ignium ore rubble actually, to be specific, is flown in, and it's stored here. And some of it is used for manufacturing. It's used for steel, and then some of it is sent over to my boilers and my steam turbines, and we'll see those in a while. This is all part of the steel making process right here. I do not have a blast furnace. I haven't seen the need for it yet because I can get along fine without it, especially since, just like I do for so many other things, I can bring it in from the space station, any extra amount I need. I'm not even sure what that is. Let me bring up my mental map. That is my vacuum bots facility. Sometimes you get a little confused out here. This is making vacuum bots. And those vacuum bots go on this little tour here and there. And, well, you can see that they're going to these two pads. And I'm making a lot more than I'm selling. And that's why these, you have storage here. I've probably filled up the space station with all the vacuum bots. All right, but let's continue on with the tour here so we don't spend too much time. We're going to go look at my Firmalite sheet facility. Firmalite is the money in the game. I always tell people, think of it like gold. You can use it to buy and sell things, but you also can make things out of it. And right now, the only thing you can make out of it is Firmalite sheets, which are used in manufacturing. So you can see the sheets heading off in the distance here, and I actually have to have two separate conveyors for it because I need so much. And you see the actual Firmalite coming in. I'm flying it down from the space station because I make it in the space station in the galactic market, and then I bring it down on spaceships, and that's what's right here. And then it's brought down, and since I can't spend it here on the planet, I'm actually bringing it down to the lava caves. And we'll take a little trip here, so I'll have to kill a little time. While we're doing that, I'll explain. I wanted to make this video to give folks an idea of what a over 200-hour factory looks like. And again, I don't have blast furnace. I don't have some of the fancier. For instance, I don't produce my own rubber. I don't produce my own super alloy. Those were added with the 2.1 update. And so far, it's just easier to bring it down from the space station. I'll probably start making them at some time. Oh, here we are. This is the lava caves where I'm making my Firmalite sheets. And to do that, we have these lava smelters. And as you can see, the Firmalite bars go out and the Firmalite sheets come back because each one of these is making it. And unfortunately, don't make them very fast, so I have a lot of these lava smelters. A lot of these lava smelters. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And it was quite an experience putting all these in here. I now have, I'll bring up the display. I now have fancy schmancy heavy explosive charges. The regular explosive charges could not break this rock down here at the bottom, down in the lava caves. Those heavy explosive charges can. So you can shape some nice spaces to allow you to put in all those lava smelters. Alright, we're going to go back to the surface and I'll explain. I also considered it, for instance, I buy fuel on the space station to fuel my spaceships. I could make my own fuel here on the surface and then just fly it up there, and I considered doing it till I figured out that to do that would take 63 lava smelters just for that one facility. And you saw how many I had down there. I probably have 60 of them right now. I would have to have twice as many, and although they don't require separate power supply, it would mean I'd have to have all the conveyors and everything else, and I'm just not ready for that. All right, it's dark now. It's 22:30. I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but one real world hour consists of 48 hours in the game. So it's basically every we can do the math. Basically, time goes by and one real world hour is 48 hours here on the planet. But let's not get distracted with all that stuff because we're here on tour. This is my power facility, and it's a doozy. I have, well, let's land a transformer, and I can tell you. Here's a transformer. You'll notice I have signs on a lot of these things. This one sends ignium to the boilers all the time. It used to only send it during the day, and it was controlled by a solar panel. And then at night, I'd run off the batteries, and I thought that was very clever. Except the batteries had to be recharged anyway, and although that helped to force the batteries to be used, turns out it really wasn't necessary because the batteries are always used first when you're running during the day. So, oh well. This is the grid stats. I'll just bring this up and we can briefly look at what's going on here. So the high voltage grid, I'm right now using 290 megawatts, of which most of it's being produced as steam turbines and the rest of it's coming off the batteries. And you notice the batteries are being used quite a bit. I'm almost to the point now, and I'm look at how much power is being used by the batteries and how much overall. I'm going to have to build more turbines. Probably a good thing I spotted this because I'm pushing myself to the very limit here with how much extra power I can provide. Because as you can see, I'm down to maybe 25% left of the batteries, and it's not even midnight yet. So I'll address that after I finish this video. Well, since we're here, I'll show you my tank farm. This is where I store all my olumite. That's like petroleum. And I have, well, again, I'll bring up my map. It's the black squares. I have various fields where I have deposits, and I've got about 8 of them where I'm flying the olumite in on shuttles, and they're coming to these 5 pads. These pads all have the same name, so that the shuttle will queue up for whichever pad is available. However, if it queues up because all the pads are busy, it'll stay there, and even if another pad opens up, it'll keep sitting there until the pad that they started queuing up at is open. That's what's happening with this guy right here. He's waiting for that guy to leave. When he leaves, this guy will start moving down. Oh, by the way, that's the space station. I don't know if people have seen it. He's coming in. He's going to land here. These pads are all loading olamite through 5 pipes, through the pipe to pipeline adapter, then through this pipeline, and they're going to these 9 tanks. These 9 tanks hold altogether 5.4 million liters of olamite. And I have a video, another Steam guide about this. Look at all my Steam guides. I've got some interesting Steam guides. This whole facility up here is a bunch of lights, and it is set up again with one of my little data systems to automatically turn on. Automatically turn off if I go below 5.3 million liters of olamite. All the lights here go off. So I can be elsewhere on the map, glance over here, and if I don't see these lights on, I know I'm starting to run low on olamite. And if I do, I go down here and see these 2 pipeline adapters, so I can go in here. Look at what the sign says. It's the reserve olamite pump power. It takes olamite from 2 deposits for emergency use only. If I need it, I hit that button, turn on the power, these pumps turn on, and these 2 pipelines, which are connected to 2 deposits, start flowing. One of the deposits is over here, and I'll show that because it's close. Again, look at all my batteries and all my solar panels. That's the olamite field. It's actually underwater. That was a lot of fun trying to get that thing hooked up and run all the pipes. Big mess. All right. Again, it's halfway through the night here, so I'll continue along. This is my facility that's making the new update 2.1 water bots, the things that travel underwater. And they require ignium fuel rods. So ignium fuel rods require providing a supply to them. I've got 8 distillation towers, and they are making low density olamite. And I've got all of these chemical processors, and if you come over here you can see what they're outputting it to this tank, which is being taken so much it's making it's liquid fuel that all these chemical processors are making. And you notice every one of them is on because I'm pulling as much as they can make. I terribly undersized my design of this. I figured out for my 4 different bots that I'm making, I have not assembly lines, that's something else, assembly facilities for each. And I thought I had scaled it out, and I must have moved a decimal point or something, because I need about twice as many distillation towers and chemical processors to make enough. But in the meantime, all of these assemblers right here are making ignium fuel rods, because every one of the underwater bots requires an ignium fuel rod. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 assembly lines, not assembly line facilities, assembly line something different, to make the 4 different types of bots. I also have one here that's making the chassis. Every one of these new bots, I'll just bring it up so I couldn't sing that. See here, the aquatic calling bot, the hydro mining bot, the oh no, that's not it, hydro farming bot, and the thing, no, that's not it. There's one other one, and I can never find it because I'm looking in the wrong place. Well, there's 4 of them, trust me. All of them require chassis to be built on, so that's what this facility is. It's making chassis, and then it's sent to all 4 facilities to make the bots. All right. Oh, and again, I'll show you. I have storage. The storage has a data control, and it's monitoring, and when the amount in the storage drops below a certain number, it tells the transformer turn on and run the facility. When I've made enough, it shuts off the transformer and turns it off. And what this does is it saves me from making so many that just sit in a line going around on a conveyor belt. It probably is, it's unnecessary. None of the data stuff is actually necessary in Foundry. You can get along fine without it. But it's nice to have, and it saves a little bit of production time and a little bit of power. Speaking of power, this is one of my high altitude pads, and again, if you look at my Steam guide, I have 2 guides talking about these high altitude pads I have, but I'll go up there in a second. These are freight elevators, and freight elevators themselves don't need power, but the loaders that are feeding it do need power. So rather than run cables out here, I developed this little transformer pad. There's a transformer, a solar panel, and a little battery, and a power pole to hook them up, and a light because I like having a light. And because I use these so often, I am using a mod, and I'll list the mod in the Steam guide that contains this video. Because when I use this mod, this is the duplicator mod. There it is, the duplicationer. I actually have stored blueprints, and one of them is my solar power transformer with light. So if any time I want to put this anywhere, I can just use the duplicationer and put it in the right place, and then do all the little steps it takes to place it. I won't do it right now, but that's what that mod's for. And like I said, I'll list it at the beginning of the guide, along with this other really cool one, which I'll show you really briefly. This is Planet. Planet allows you to figure out what you need to build something. Like this is a maintenance drone. This is everything that's required to build 32 maintenance drones a minute. And this is the inputs, and then here's all the facilities that you need, all the different buildings. And of course, since this uses a Firmalite sheet, I have to have 3.2 lava smelters 1s or 1.6 lava smelter 2s, what we said down in the lava guide. So like I said, these are 2 really cool mods. But let's go to the high altitude pad. And I have another one of my little solar power panels. And here we have a ship waiting. And what is it loading? We can look it up. It's loading the hydro mining bot. Now, as I said, I have two Steam guides that talk about these high pads. One of them just talks about the advantage of the pad, and the other one breaks down all the numbers. And it does a lot of analysis of what the benefit is. And there's a lot of benefit to having a pad at this altitude, because the number of seconds when a ship comes down to land from the space station on here versus coming down to all the way to the surface, it saves about 10 extra seconds. And over the course of an hour, you figure out how many trips. That's a significant amount. Ooh, there's moonrise over there. There's ships queued up, waiting in line to unload. Lots of stuff happening. All right, let's go back on the tour here. All right, this is the facility for making my water bots. And we already did that. So let's drop down and look at the facility that's processing my olumite. The olamite is coming out of these tanks, and these tanks are all interconnected. This is a pump. This is a pipeline to pipeline pump. It's the only one I have because the size of this whole manifold here is so large that I would be, well, I'll show you. I would be violating that complexity number if it wasn't for the fact that that pump separates the pipeline here from the tanks. Otherwise, the tanks would count as part of the complexity. And right now, I have a pipeline to pipe adapter, a pump, which is an adapter, that's sending olamite off there. But what we're interested in right now is the olamite that this big manifold is carrying, because it goes down here. And there's 5 of these pipeline to pipe pumps that's breaking off flow to all these different facilities. And I won't go through all the facilities because this will make the video really long. But as you can see here, I have it labeled. This is making olamite gas. This is making low density olamite. And these aren't the only ones making it. I also have them here. That's like the expanded facility. Down here I've got places making it. And this is just ground storage for some more crude olamite. In fact, you can do that to look at it closely. But throughout my facility here, I have several of these tanks so that I can look at, and it says olamite gas, and I can see that it's full, which means I'm making enough. And an olamic acid, love these names, and you can also see that it's full, so I'm making enough of that. And that's a nice thing to have, is those tanks when you've got a facility making something, to know you're making enough. And we're going to continue on with the tour. You can see this is quite a complex place. In fact, I'll sort of go over here. Some of this is just making well, this right here is making paint, because my assembly lines for robots require paint. I'll show you that in a minute. But here's the facility that's making paint. All of this. And you can see here, I expanded this. It used to be only that one row, and I added this whole row. And using the duplicator, I know it's called the duplicationer. I made one of these, pair of these chemical processors, set all the pipes up, and look how complex all those pipes are, and put signs on everything, which I probably didn't need to do, but it's nice to have. And then I just copied and pasted this entire row so that I can manufacture it without having to place each individual one and raise the pipes. Oh, and you may notice in a lot of places, I love these little lights. These are just portable lights. They don't require electricity, because I hate at night that the fuel that this it's so dark in a lot of my factory. All right, we're over here and we're near assembly lines, and there, by the way, some more of those high altitude pads. These are right here. I'll just give you a little sweepy look. These are various facilities. I don't want to say the word assembly line, it's very confusing, that are making all the drones and bots for the space station to be sold. And I have a lot of them. And after a while, I came up with sort of a standard plan of how to make them. This is my main bus. We'll talk about the main bus too at some point. You put down a transformer. It stays out by itself, has a little one of those surface lights on a pole. And it's powering this whole facility. Then I have a bunch of assemblers and a bunch of loaders and a bunch of pipes. And then when it comes out, it goes to a storage. And that storage is connected through another one of my little data controllers. And it says if I have too many items in the storage, it turns off that transformer. And then when there's the number of items in the storage drops, it turns that transformer back on. And again, it's just to save power and be a little consistent, a little conservative, so I don't use power making things that are just going to sit in a storage. Whew. All right, we're reaching the end here, because I'm not going to go anywhere else on the map, show you the other facilities, at least not in this video. This is finally in a storage line, an assembly line. Now I can actually use the word assembly line. And this is making, right here, science robots. And the science robots come out, and they go down this line, and the head gets added to the torso, and it gets welded on, and then we add an arm. See, add an arm, weld the arm, etc. The other arm, leg, then paint it. I love to paint these things weirdly. And then they go in here, and it gets sent up to the space station. And I actually added another assembly line, because I'm selling a lot of these science robots. So I added another assembly line. By the way, the assembly line is as fast as it goes. It makes 32 a minute. And that's all you can get out of it. It's a very fixed speed. And then, because I needed more of these science robots, I actually made another assembly line for them. Some of the other robots, I don't need so many, so I can get by with just maybe one assembly line, or like this one, where I actually have two assembly lines feeding one shipping pad. Whew. All right, we're at the last phase of this here. These are, by the way, are the facilities that are making the 4 different parts, head, torso, arms, and legs, for those assembly lines. And we'll finish up this tour with a flyover of my main bus. Those of you who played Factorio know all about the main bus. Since in Foundry you can go 3-dimension on a main bus, this is how you split off to provide a supply. You start off, you delete 6 of these pieces of conveyor, and you have an up ramp, a splitter, although in the game they call it a balancer, and then you have another down ramp, although this one I think has an extra piece there. And then you send those pieces over. And I have a lot of these. In fact, as you look on this video, you can see how many of them I have that feed off to the side. And we'll just fly along the main bus here. You can see how many items I have, and if you look closely, you can kind of figure out what they are. I won't list them, because I'm planning on doing a Steam guide about the main bus, and I'll save that for later. But you can see I have sometimes I'll have 3 balancers in a row, and it gets really tricky. And at one point I actually swapped rows over, and I had the plates going on rods onto the wrong downstream line. It was a mess. It took me a while to fix that. But this is going upstream on the main bus, and you can see how many of them. And again, I like putting the occasional light. And I think we'll finish it here. You can see in the distance the main bus is there. Oh, no, I won't finish it here. I've made a little, this is like a shopping arcade. You can pick up extra rods, plates, steel, and concrete as you need them. And those are fed off of the main bus here. And so you can land here and immediately resupply. It's a nice touch. I just wanted to show these. The main bus, the problem with any main bus is if you take enough stuff off of the bus with these takeoffs, I call them, you're going to start losing on the downstream to other items, to other facilities that need them. So I do have these occasional shipping pads midway down that supply. Here's, of course, it's an electrical component that's being fed into the well, this one's being fed into a special facility, so of course it was a bad example for me to pick it. But here's another one, and this is making here we go, polyboard. I need polyboard, polymer board, and it needs for here, and there's a bunch of uses further down. And so that belt that the polyboard was on was starting to get thin, so I put one of these shipping pads here, and I'm bringing down an additional polymer board from the station. And that's what those are for. And you notice I have several of them. It's an ugly solution, it's a kludge, but it works. And someday I'll probably figure out a better way to do it, but for right now it works pretty good. And I'll finish up this video as we watch the spaceships going off to the space station and my shuttle's flying around, and we can see it's a very busy place.